what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. I've got a couple of interesting stories for you guys today. The first story that I've got for you guys today, a guest posing this weekend that featured Quint Beastwood, Quentin Araya, and Nick Walker, among several others, including the Green Ranger, which is his Instagram handle. He's a bodybuilder with Down syndrome. I recommend you guys checking him out. Some of this is footage that he got, but from this guest posing at this Pure Muscle and Fitness event in Canada, we got to see a side-by-side, a little bit, of Quint Beastwood and Nick Walker. Now, obviously, Nick is coming off the Arnold Classic second-place finish, so he is only 4 weeks into his off-season, if you could even call it that. Quentin Araya is well into his off-season, so I want to take note of that Nick basically just got off stage less than a month ago, and Quentin hasn't competed in quite some time and is deep into his off-season, so he's really holding his own against a guy that is in a lot better shape than him right now, or theoretically should be, just based on the timing of when he last competed. But Quentin, this is interesting to me because I feel like Quentin is very similar to a guy like Samson Dauda, very similar in structure. They're both heavier guys, taller guys, really aesthetic frames. I think Quentin is around 300 pounds in this video. And I actually think he compares really favorably with Nick, especially when you take into consideration what we saw at the Arnold Classic with Samson Dauda, Nick Walker, and Andrew Jack being the top three. These taller aesthetic bodybuilders that carry a lot of size are doing really, really well right now. Granted, you've got to come in shape. You can't just be tall, aesthetic, and be a 300-pound guy. So that's obviously still the big caveat with Quint Beastwood when we're talking about the potential that he has, the structure that he has, and how I think he can go really far as a pro. We still got to keep in mind, with that structure and with that size, he's got to come in shape like Samson did, like Andrew Jack did. Structure, shape, and size is not enough to win a show. But with that being said, I think from what we can see here, he compares pretty favorably with Nick, even though they're two very different physiques. And he's a guy I'm really excited to see back on stage, especially with what we saw from Samson and Andrew Jack, this past, pro season. These bigger, taller guys with these really good structures, they're doing well right now. It seems like the judges are favoring that look. And maybe that means trouble for the Nick Walkers, the Hadi Chupins, and the Derek Lunsfords if there's a changing of the guard. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Is this the era of the taller guys, or are the shorter guys here to stay? Are Hadi, Derek, and Nick still a solid top three for next year's Olympia? Well, this year's Olympia at this point. What is your guys' feeling on the direction of the judging? And what do you guys think about how these guys looked in this guest posing here? We're going to see another one very, very soon in Pittsburgh. That's going to be just as interesting, if not way more interesting than this one. Now, next up in the news, the Masters Mr. Olympia, Hidetada Yamagishi, one of the few names that have confirmed so far. He has publicly confirmed that he sent in his application to do it. He's one of the more decorated bodybuilders to express interest in it, even though we haven't seen him compete in a while. This physique that we're seeing from him now, obviously not a prime Hidetada Yamagishi. He's almost 50 years old, and I believe he will be 50 years old at the time of the competition. Now, aside from Hide, I did hear from a very reputable source that so far intent to compete, or so far confirmed to compete, is Hidetada Yamagishi, Alex Combernero, Fernando Maradona, and Fred Biggie Smalls, with a possibility of Eduardo Correa also being another name added to that list. These are the names that seem to be actually confirmed, like I said, from a pretty reputable source. So not, honestly, a super deep list at all. And there's less than 2 weeks to finalize these invitations and to submit their applications. But honestly, I have a feeling if there was a guy like Jay Cutler or Dexter Jackson that wanted to jump in this thing at the last minute, I honestly think the Olympia wouldn't make this deadline apply to them at all. I think if they want to jump in at the last minute, they would let them. But even though this isn't the prime Hidetada that we saw back in the day, that's not what we're expecting to see here. This is a Masters competition, and for a Masters bodybuilder, I actually think he looks really good. For a guy that's almost 50, I actually think that he looks pretty impressive here. I think what we're going to be seeing is not a bunch of mass monsters. You're not going to see the biggest guys in the world. You're going to see guys, especially some of these well-known guys, if they do show up and compete, they're going to be a shadow of the former physique that they used to have. They're going to be a shadow of themselves. They're not going to be the same bodybuilder. If you did see Jay compete, for example, we talked a lot about Jay Cutler, don't expect to see an early 2000s Jay. Expect to see a Jay that's almost 50. So that's the one thing I would want to caution people, and I think that this video serves a good purpose in terms of showing what to expect. measure your expectations when we're talking about this Masters Olympia. Yes, I do think there's a very strong possibility we could see some big names here. I think there's a strong possibility we see some big names like Jay Cutler commit to doing this show. I don't know if he's going to do it or not, but similar to Jay Cutler, I think there's a lot of guys from that era that you could see jump in this show. That being said, don't expect to see a world beater prime version of these bodybuilders. What we're seeing from Hidetada right here in this posing video, this is more what you're going to be able to expect from whoever jumps in this show. So I'm expecting this Masters Olympia to be more a battle of balance and conditioning than it is size and shape. You're not going to see the most pretty physiques. You're not going to see the most shapely physiques. You're not going to see the biggest, freakiest physiques. I think you're going to see some really mature, quality, conditioned muscle. And that's what this Masters Olympia is going to be about. And Hidetada is a prime example of that. And I'm excited to see him back on stage. Now, next up in the news, the latest physique update from GoodVito Vitaly Ugonikov, who is now an IFBB pro and is now looking to qualify for this year's Mr. Olympia. Now, he is from Russia and he's living in Brazil. So he's posted this physique update, and he does, to me, look like he's starting to tighten up compared to some of the other updates we saw from him throughout the year after turning pro. I believe he is going to try to qualify in Brazil at a pro competition there. He doesn't specify in this post what his plan is as far as what show he's going to do to qualify, but he does say he's on the road to qualifying and that this is his current physique. Now, there is the Arnold Classic Brazil in just a couple of weeks. This version of him, to me, does not look like he's 2 weeks out. I don't think he's going to be jumping in that show based on this update. He does not look like a bodybuilder that's 2 weeks out. Now, there's a lot of international shows over the summer, and I really think he's going to do one of those shows and not a U.S. show, just because of the fact that he's from Russia, living in Brazil. I don't know how easy it is for him to travel to the U.S. to compete. I think it's probably going to be easier to do an international show. I was thinking Brazil, but I really don't think he's going to be in shape for the Arnold Classic Brazil. You've got coming up, there's a show in Spain coming up, which I think is a possibility for him, the M-Pro Classic Spain, because I believe he turned pro in Spain. There's also a show in Puerto Rico coming up. There's the Mr. Big Evolution, which is in Portugal. There is also the next show in Spain is the Big Man Weekend Spain. In all those shows that I just mentioned, we're only talking about going into July. So when we talk about bodybuilding kind of being slow right now, just keep in mind that as we get into the summer, we're going to have a lot of shows. A lot of bodybuilders have not qualified yet and still need to qualify for the 2023 Olympia. And you're going to see a lot of those bodybuilders doing a lot of these shows. And there's going to be a lot to talk about once the season picks back up. And I think we're likely going to see GoodVito on stage, if not at this Arnold Classic Brazil, which I don't think is likely, probably sometime around June or July. Which, by the way, my honest opinion, I think there's a very real possibility that we see GoodVito do more damage right out of the gate than we saw Michael Krizo do. I think GoodVito is the real deal, and I don't think we've talked about him enough just because he's been kind of quiet lately. I think he's got some work to do. He's got some body parts to bring up, like his triceps, for example. But I really believe he's got a top Olympian caliber physique. He's a shorter guy, so when you talk about the type of physique he has, I think he can be on par with a Nick Walker, a Derek Lunsford, a Hadi Chupin. If he brings that same type of conditioning, I think he can be a real threat. Now, the final story that I have for you guys today. Big Ramy posted these photos yesterday. Obviously, yesterday was April Fool's. There was a lot of bodybuilders posting fake posts, fake news. That's why I didn't want to make a video yesterday, because there was so much stuff that was just April Fool's post. But Big Ramy posted these yesterday, and it seems like everybody was unable to confirm when these were from, so I just straight up asked Ramy, and he responded, these were from his Arnold prep, so these are not recent updates. Ramy is not competing anytime soon. He's not prepping right now. This isn't his current shape. These are photos from the Arnold Classic, but a lot of people still were sending these to me saying how impressive he looked. I agree. I think Ramy looked really good at the Arnold Classic. I don't think he missed the mark. And in these pictures, I mean, he's got crazy vascularity all over his quads. His midsection looks better here. He looks fuller. I'm interested to see how he's going to look. And again, I'm interested to see if he actually shows up to this Pittsburgh Pro guest posing. I think it's really important that he does. We've talked about this before. This is the big conspiracy theory. A lot of people think the fact that he blew off the Pittsburgh Pro last year because it's Jim Mannion's show, the guy that runs the entire IFBB, and Big Ramy committed to it last year and blew it off. That's where the conspiracy theory came from, that Ramy's being punished, that his placing at the Olympia was his punishment for missing that show. I personally do not believe in that conspiracy theory. I don't subscribe to it, and I don't think it's likely. However, I do think as Mr. Olympia, he has a responsibility to fulfill these obligations. Well, as a former Mr. Olympia, I should say now, to fulfill these obligations and show up. I think if he does not show up to this Pittsburgh Pro a second time, it's a really, really bad look for him. Do I think he's going to be punished in the form of placings? No. But as a representative of the Olympia title, I think it's really important that he follows through with this one. And I'm excited to see what he looks like on stage. They got a really good list of guest posers for that show coming up in May. And I really hope that Ramy honors that commitment. Because like I said, I think he looked good at the Arnold. I think he fixed some things. I think he made some improvements. He looked better than he looked at the Olympia. And I think he's got a shot to look a lot better at this next Olympia than he looked at the last one if things really go as planned for him with these stem cells, with the treatment that he's receiving. If that works, I think he's got a shot at being top 3 again. I really do. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. That's going to wrap it up for the video, guys. I hope you did, in fact, enjoy it. Make sure you leave a like if you did. Make sure you subscribe. All that good stuff. And as always, I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Nick Strength and Power signing out. All right, guys, don't forget to click that like button and subscribe to this channel if you enjoy the content. Also, check out my Instagram at Nick Strength Power. My Facebook page, which is simply Nick Strength and Power. My secondary YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Vlogs, for vlogs and bonus content that you will not see on this channel. And consider subscribing to my third YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Pokemon, which is all things Pokemon and trading card games, completely unrelated to this channel. So if you're into that, give that one a look. And all links to merchandise and social media will be in the description box below. If you guys want a Nick Strength and Power t-shirt, that will be in the Shopify link below. Have a great day.